The star chart projected in blue light above Taho Kim's desk showed thousands of worlds across the Galactic Union. For 3 weeks, he had been comparing official maps as part of his job as a junior xenocartographer. Something strange kept bothering him. Every map ended at exactly the same place, the border of human space. Taho zoomed in on the edge of human territory. Beyond it was nothing. Not unexplored space, which would be marked in standard gray. Not dangerous territory, which would show in red warning patterns. Just blank emptiness, as if the universe itself stopped existing. But Taho knew stars existed beyond that point. Anyone with a basic telescope could see them. He adjusted his uniform and walked down the curved hallway to Director Park's office. The older Yonan had been mapping stars for 60 years. "Director Park, may I ask you something about the official charts?" Taho asked after being invited in. "Of course. That's what I'm here for." The director's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of openness among his species. Taho projected the map from his tablet. "I've noticed all our charts end exactly at human territory, but there are clearly stars beyond. Why don't we map them?" The friendly expression on Director Park's face vanished. All 4 eyes blinked at once, a warning sign. "Some boundaries exist for good reasons, Taho," he said quietly. "I strongly suggest you focus on chartered space. But as cartographers, isn't it our job to?" "This conversation is over." Director Park's voice was suddenly cold. "Return to your assigned sector mapping." Confused, Taho left the office. He had never seen the calm director react that way to anything. That evening, Taho attended the quarterly Galactic Union reception. Representatives from all 57 member species gathered to discuss trade and politics. Taho only went because attendance was required for all Union employees. He stood alone near the food table, watching different species interact. The tall, thin Loraki, the short, 6-limbed Parine, the floating mist collectives that changed colors with their emotions, and the humans, so new to the galactic community, having joined only 80 years ago. Yet they had quickly established a large territory and gained surprising influence. "The food isn't much better on this side of the room," said a voice behind him. Taho turned to see a human woman in a diplomatic uniform. Her name badge read Juwu Han, Earth Embassy. "I was just thinking," Taho said, "about why you're standing alone at a networking event." Juwu asked with a smile. "Actually, about maps." The words came out before Taho could stop himself. "Maps." Her eyebrow raised slightly. "I'm a xenocartographer. I've noticed something odd about our star charts. They all end exactly at human space. No explanation, no notation. Just nothing beyond." Taho expected another dismissal like Director Park's. Instead, Juwu's smile changed into something more complex. "Funny how no one ever asks about that, isn't it?" she said quietly. Taho blinked in surprise. "You mean you know about this?" Juwu looked around the room, then lowered her voice. "Walk with me to get a drink." As they moved through the crowd, Juwu spoke without looking at him. "Every human knows the maps end at our territory. We're under strict orders never to discuss it with non-humans." "But why? Is it some kind of territorial claim?" Juwu laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We wish it were that simple." They reached the drink station. Juwu took a glass of blue liquid and studied Taho carefully. "You seem genuinely curious, not just politically motivated. That's rare." She handed him a small data chip. "My private contact. If you're serious about understanding the boundary, message me tomorrow." Before Taho could respond, an older human in a military uniform approached. The golden pins on his collar marked him as someone important. "Diplomat Han," the man said with a nod. "Is this yeoman bothering you?" "Not at all, Admiral Minho. Taho here works in cartography. We were discussing star charts." The Admiral's friendly expression froze. "Star charts. Regional shipping routes," Juwu said smoothly. "Nothing interesting." The Admiral looked at Tahoe for a long moment, then nodded. I see. Enjoy your evening. As he walked away, Ju whispered, Be careful who you ask about this. Some questions are dangerous. She stepped back with a professional smile. It was lovely meeting you, cartographer Kim. That night, Tahoe couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the maps, Director Park's warning, and Juwoo's mysterious response. He held the small data chip, wondering what would happen if he contacted her. Something important lay beyond human space, something that made even his calm director nervous, something that humans protected or feared. Tomorrow, he would find out what. Tahoe stared at the data chip on his desk for 10 minutes before finally inserting it into his private terminal. He sent a simple message. I want to understand the boundary. The response came faster than he expected. Central Park, Observation Dome, 1 hour. The park at the center of Galactic Union headquarters was designed to accommodate all member species. Some areas had high gravity, others low. Some were hot and dry, others cold and wet. The observation dome sat in the middle, offering views of the stars above the station. Juwoo was already there when Tahoe arrived, staring up at the distant points of light. You actually came, she said without turning around. I wasn't sure you would. I have questions. Everyone does. Few ask them out loud. She gestured to the bench beside her. Sit. This dome is safe from listening devices. Tahoe sat carefully. I started collecting historical maps after our conversation. The boundary hasn't changed since humans joined the Union 80 years ago. What else did you find? Ju asked. 6 exploration vessels. 6 different species sent expeditions beyond human space before your people joined the Union. None returned. A flicker of sadness crossed Juwoo's face. 7, actually. Your records missed one. What happened to them? No one knows for certain. She finally turned to look at him. You understand this could cost us both our positions. Maybe worse. Tahoe's 4 hearts beat faster, but he nodded. Tell me about the Makari Empire, Juwoo said suddenly. The question surprised him. The Makari. They were a major power about 300 years ago. They disappeared suddenly. Most historians think they destroyed themselves in some internal conflict. And what were they doing just before they vanished? Tahoe thought back to his history lessons. They were expanding rapidly. They had just discovered a new world rich in resources. His eyes widened. Earth. They found Earth. Juwoo nodded. They tried to colonize Earth. 3 million Makari ships arrived in our system. None left. That's impossible. Humans didn't have space travel then. We didn't need it. Juwoo's voice was soft but clear. The Makari didn't just disappear. They were unmade. A cold feeling spread through Tahoe's body. Unmade. I need to show you something, but we can't do it here. Juwoo handed him another data chip. These are historical maps from before humans joined the Union. Study them, and you'll see the boundary used to move. That night, Tahoe locked the door to his small apartment and loaded the chip. The maps were official Galactic Union charts from different time periods. The boundary existed before humans joined, just as Juwoo had said, but it moved. Sometimes it expanded, sometimes it contracted. Then, 80 years ago, when humans joined the Union, the boundary fixed permanently at the edge of human space and never moved again. 3 days later, Tahoe met Juwoo at a small restaurant in the Union Station's lower levels. Humans were a protected species, he said as soon as they sat down. The Union had laws preventing contact with Earth. Why? Because of what happened to the Makari, Juwoo replied. The Union discovered that something around Earth was dangerous. They couldn't understand it, but they knew to stay away. What changed? Why did humans suddenly join the Union 80 years ago? Juwoo's eyes showed a deep sadness. We learned to control it. Mostly. Control what? The thing beyond the boundary. She leaned forward. Listen carefully. Humans aren't like other species. Our minds work differently. We can interact with things that exist outside normal spacetime. Tahoe tried to process this. Are you saying humans are psychic? No. We're compatible with something else. Something ancient. She sipped her drink. Have you ever wondered why humans advanced so quickly? From our first space flight to joining the Galactic Union in less than 300 years. Before Tahoe could answer, the restaurant door opened. Admiral Minho walked in with 2 security officers. Ju straightened immediately. Admiral. Diplomat Han. The Admiral's voice was tight. You've been sharing restricted information. I haven't broken any regulations, Ju said calmly. The Council disagrees. The Admiral turned to Tahoe. Cartographer Kim, you've been asking dangerous questions. I'm just trying to understand. We're leaving for Haven tomorrow, the Admiral interrupted. Both of you. Haven? Tahoe asked. The frontier colony. The edge, Ju whispered. The very edge of human space. The Admiral nodded grimly. You wanted to understand the boundary, Cartographer Kim. The Council has decided to show you. As the Admiral left, Tahoe turned to Ju in confusion. This isn't a punishment, she explained. It's an invitation. Very few non-humans have ever been allowed to see what lies beyond. And those who did? Tahoe asked. Some returned, Ju said quietly. Not all. Tahoe should have been frightened, but instead felt a strange excitement. The mystery that had consumed him was about to be revealed. Pack lightly, Ju advised. We leave at dawn. The military transport ship was smaller than Tahoe expected, designed for speed rather than comfort. Through the viewport, he watched as the Galactic Union headquarters shrank to a tiny dot and then disappeared completely. Admiral Minho had said little since their departure, spending most of his time in the command section. Ju sat beside Tahoe in the passenger compartment, her expression thoughtful. How far is Haven? Tahoe asked, breaking the silence. 3 days at maximum speed, Ju replied. It's the furthest human colony, right at the edge of what we call protected space. And beyond that, Ju's eyes met his. The boundary. And then, something else. On the second day, Admiral Minho finally joined them in the passenger compartment. He carried a sealed container which he placed on the table between them. Before we reach Haven, you need to understand some things, Cartographer Kim. The Admiral's voice was serious but not unkind. What we're about to show you is known to fewer than 50 non-humans in the entire galaxy. He opened the container and removed an old-fashioned paper map. Actual paper, not digital. It showed Earth's solar system and nearby stars. This was created 2,000 years ago by humans, long before we had space travel, the Admiral explained. These markings here, they show the boundary. Tahoe leaned forward in shock. That's impossible. Humans couldn't have known about distant stars then. We didn't map them through observation, Ju said quietly. We sensed them. The Admiral nodded. Throughout human history, certain people could feel the boundary. We called them prophets, oracles, seers. They drew maps like this one, showing places they had never seen. But why would the boundary exist around Earth before humans had space travel? Tahoe asked. Because it's not about space travel, the Admiral replied. It's about what humans are. Before Tahoe could ask more questions, the ship's alarm sounded. The Admiral rushed to the command section. Moments later, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder. What's happening? Tahoe asked as the lights dimmed. We're being scanned, Ju explained. Haven has the strongest defenses of any human world. Through the viewport, Tahoe saw a small blue-green planet surrounded by dozens of military stations. For a frontier colony, Haven had more protection than most core worlds. Welcome to the edge, Ju said softly. Hours later, they stood on the surface of Haven. Unlike the crowded cities of most colony worlds, Haven was eerily empty. Beautiful buildings stood along clean streets, but few people walked them. Population 2 million, Admiral Minho explained as they walked. All volunteers. Volunteers for what? Tahoe asked. For living on the edge, a new voice answered. A tall human approached them. His uniform lacked any insignia, but the Admiral immediately straightened. Commander Sunwoo, the Admiral said with a respectful nod. Thank you for agreeing to meet us. When the Council makes a request, I listen. Commander Sunwoo studied Tahoe with intense eyes. So this is the curious cartographer. They followed Commander Sunwoo to a small building at the edge of the city. Inside was a simple room with a large window facing away from the settlement, toward a mountain range in the distance. That ridge marks the official boundary, Commander Sunwoo explained. Beyond it is what we call the shimmer. I don't see anything unusual, Tahoe said, squinting at the mountains. You will at sunset, Ju promised. As they waited, Commander Sunwoo brought them drinks and sat across from Tahoe. Humans aren't the barrier, he said without preamble. We're the barrier keepers. What does that mean? Tahoe asked. It means we were chosen, Sunwoo replied. Or created, or evolved. No one knows for certain. But humans can do something no other species can. We can interact with what lies beyond without being destroyed. What lies beyond? Something ancient, something that exists outside normal spacetime. Commander Sunwoo's voice dropped lower. Something that finds most forms of conscious life disturbing. The room darkened as the sun began to set. Tahoe turned toward the window and felt his 4 hearts stop for a moment. Where there had been mountains before, there was now a shimmering curtain of light. Colors that shouldn't exist moved in patterns that hurt his eyes. The boundary was no longer invisible. It was a physical terror in reality. The shimmer is always there, Ju explained. But most species can only see it at certain times. Humans always see it. Those exploration ships, Tahoe whispered, the ones that never returned, they crossed into that. Admiral Minho nodded grimly. They didn't understand what they were seeing. They thought it was a natural phenomenon, or perhaps a new form of energy. What happened to them? Tomorrow, Commander Sunwoo said firmly. Tomorrow we will take you to the observation post. You'll see for yourself what happens when someone crosses the boundary. As darkness fell completely, the shimmer grew brighter, casting strange shadows across the room. Tahoe couldn't look away from it, despite the growing headache behind his eyes. Get some rest, Ju advised. Tomorrow will change everything you think you know about the universe. The morning sky above Haven was clear blue, giving no hint of the strange boundary visible at sunset. Commander Sunwoo led Tahoe, Ju, and Admiral Minho to a small airfield where a sturdy ground vehicle waited. The observation post is 10 kilometers beyond the city limits, Sunwoo explained as they climbed aboard. It's as close to the shimmer as non-humans can safely go. They drove in silence through empty grasslands. Tahoe noticed there were no animals, no birds, not even insects. Nothing lives near the boundary, Ju said, noticing his observation. Only humans can tolerate the proximity. The observation post was a simple concrete building half buried in the ground. Inside, screens covered the walls showing different views of the boundary. In the daylight, the shimmer was barely visible, just a faint distortion in the air, like heat rising from hot pavement. 3 humans in plain gray uniforms worked at control stations. They nodded respectfully to Commander Sunwoo, but showed no curiosity about the visitors. Today is special, Sunwoo announced. We have a scheduled crossing. Someone is going beyond the boundary. Tahoe asked in shock. We send a drone through every 30 days. Admiral Minho explained. To maintain contact. Contact with what? Before anyone could answer, one of the technicians called out, "Signal detected. Something's coming through from the other side." The main screen showed the shimmer rippling like disturbed water. Then a shape emerged, a vessel of some kind, but unlike any ship Tahoe had ever seen. It seemed to change shape as it moved, angles and curves flowing like liquid. It was both enormous and tiny at the same time. somehow occupying more space than it should. The hollow, Ju whispered. That's a ship? Tahoe asked, his voice shaking. Not exactly, Commander Sunwoo said. It's a physical manifestation of something that isn't entirely physical, a projection into our reality. On screen, the strange vessel stopped just at the boundary. A small drone from the human side approached it. Watch carefully, Admiral Minho said. This is why the maps end here. The drone transmitted images to the observation post. As it crossed the boundary, the pictures became distorted. Space itself seemed to bend around the drone. Stars visible in the background stretched into lines, then swirled into spirals. Time flows differently beyond the boundary, Sunwoo explained. Not forward and backward like here. More like all at once. The drone reached the strange vessel. Something extended from the vessel. Not a docking arm or a tractor beam, but a shifting pattern of light and shadow. Communication established, reported a technician. The hollow cannot speak to most species, Ju said quietly. When it tries, their minds break. But humans, our minds are structured differently. We can translate. On a smaller screen, symbols appeared. Not words from any language, but complex mathematical patterns. It's asking about you, Sunwoo told Tahoe. It senses a non-human presence. What is it? Tahoe finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Admiral Minho took a deep breath. We don't know exactly. Our best understanding is that it's an entity from another dimension, one where time and space work differently. It discovered our universe thousands of years ago. The hollow exists outside linear time, Ju added. It sees past, present, and future simultaneously. Most forms of consciousness appear chaotic and aggressive to it. Most species try to impose order on the universe, Sunwoo continued. We build, we control, we shape. The hollow sees this as violence against reality itself. When it first found our dimension, it tried to correct what it saw as damage. What does that mean? Tahoe asked. It means it tried to erase sentient life, Admiral Minho said grimly. Starting with the most advanced civilizations. A cold realization washed over Tahoe. The Makari Empire. They didn't just disappear, did they? This thing erased them from existence. Sunwoo nodded. 3 million ships, billions of individuals. Gone in seconds. But why not humans? Tahoe asked. You said it finds consciousness disturbing. Most consciousness, Ju corrected. Human minds are different. We think in ways that the hollow finds comprehensible. We can communicate with it without being perceived as a threat. On screen, the strange vessel retreated back into the shimmer, which rippled and then settled. Humans discovered the hollow's existence thousands of years ago, Admiral Minho explained. Or perhaps we evolved to sense it. Throughout our history, certain humans could feel its presence. When we developed space travel and found the Galactic Union, Sunwoo continued, we realized we had a responsibility. We could communicate with the hollow. We could convince it not to correct other sentient species. So the boundary, Tahoe began, is a containment line. Ju finished. Not to keep the hollow in. Nothing could do that. But to mark where normal space ends and its influence begins. The maps end at human space, Admiral Minho said quietly, because humans are the only thing standing between the rest of galactic civilization and something that doesn't understand why you should exist. Tahoe stared at the now calm shimmer on the screen, finally understanding the terrible burden humans carried. And no one dares to ask why, he whispered. There's one more thing you need to see, Commander Sunwoo said as they left the observation post. The sun was setting again, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples. Instead of returning to the city, their vehicle headed toward a hill overlooking the boundary. As they climbed out, Tahoe could see the shimmer beginning to appear, glowing stronger as darkness fell. This is Watcher's Hill, Admiral Minho explained. Every human colony has one. A place where we can see what we're protecting. At the top of the hill stood a simple stone monument. Carved into its surface were symbols Tahoe didn't recognize. "These are names," Ju said, running her fingers over the strange markings. "Names of those who maintained the first contact, the original guardians." "How long have humans been doing this?" Tahoe asked. "As long as humans have existed," Sunwoo replied. His voice had changed, becoming deeper, more formal. "Earth is not our homeworld. It's our post." The words hung in the air as Tahoe tried to understand. "Not your homeworld." "But human evolution was guided," Admiral Minho interrupted, "directed toward a specific purpose by those who came before. The ancients," Ju added. "They discovered the hollow first, thousands of years before any current species existed. They learned they couldn't communicate with it. Their minds were too rigid, too defined. So they created humans," Sunwoo continued, "or modified an existing species to become humans. They shaped our minds to be flexible, imaginative, able to grasp contradictions and paradoxes." Tahoe stared at the boundary, the truth slowly dawning on him. Humans were engineered specifically to contain the hollow, to communicate with it, Ju corrected, to help it understand our reality, to convince it not to erase sentient life. As darkness fell completely, something extraordinary happened. Human figures appeared on the hill around them, not solid, but not quite transparent either. They wore clothing from different time periods in human history. Some carried spears, others wore modern clothes. All faced the shimmer. "The hollow exists outside time," Admiral Minho explained quietly. "So do those who watch it. What you're seeing are echoes of guardians across thousands of years, all standing watch at the same moment." "Are they ghosts?" Tahoe whispered. "Time doesn't work the same near the boundary," Sunwoo said. "Past, present, future, they blur together here. These are real humans from different points in history, all performing the same duty." One of the figures turned toward them, a young woman in ancient clothing. She looked directly at Tahoe with eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. "We volunteered," she said, her voice somehow both distant and crystal clear. "All of us, throughout time. The ancients didn't force us," Admiral Minho added. "They asked, and we agreed. Every human soul makes this choice." The spectral woman nodded and turned back to face the shimmer. "The maps end a human space," Ju said softly, "because what lies beyond isn't space anymore. It's something else entirely." "But why keep it secret?" Tahoe asked. "Why not tell the Galactic Union the truth?" "Fear," Sunwoo answered simply. "If other species knew what exists beyond the boundary, there would be panic. Some would try to destroy the hollow, which is impossible, and would only provoke it. Others would worship it as a god. And some," Admiral Minho added grimly, "would try to use it as a weapon." As they spoke, the shimmer pulsed with new colors. The spectral guardians raised their hands in unison, and the boundary calmed again. "Every day, somewhere in human space, the hollow tests the boundary," Ju explained. "And every day, humans maintain the connection, the communication, the balance." Tahoe watched the silent guardians, understanding at last the weight humans carried. "What happens now?" he asked finally. "To me. I know the secret." "You return to the Galactic Union," Admiral Minho said. "You continue your work as a cartographer. But now you understand why the maps end where they do. And you never tell anyone what you've seen," Sunwoo added. "For their safety, not ours." As they walked back to the vehicle, Tahoe took one last look at the boundary and the silent guardians keeping their eternal watch. 3 days later, he stood at the window of his small apartment in Galactic Union headquarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere among them, humans stood at the edge of reality, protecting species who would never know what was being done for them. That night, he completed his latest star chart. When he reached the edge of human space, he carefully marked the boundary with a simple line. No explanation, No notation, just as it had always been. But now he understood why the maps ended there, and why no one dared to ask why. The maps ended at human space not because of politics or fear, but because humans stood at the edge of everything the galaxy understood, not as conquerors or explorers, but as guardians, keeping watch at the boundary between existence and something far worse than oblivion.